I find that, I'm staying at the Radisson Hotel, the former Ukraine hotel. Beautiful hotel. I think it's expensive. I don't know, because Synergy Global Forum is paying for it. Do you know that all the time I've been there, nobody's ever used my name? Be too much work. See, the reasons we don't use a customer's name is indifference. We don't care. Nobody's ever trained us. Fear. Maybe I don't know how to pronounce Tschohl, so I just won't use his name. The most sweetest thing to you and I is our name. Visualize you're going to go to a restaurant tomorrow for lunch. And there's 20 of them within a mile from where you work. But there's one restaurant that when you walk in, everybody knows who you are, and they use your name. The waitstaff uses your name, the waitress uses your name, the hostess uses your name. Where would you want to go? Where are you going to go most? See, it doesn't take more time to just say, "Oh, Mr. Tschohl," with a smile. "Gosh, it's great to have you back." So remembering your customers is one of the most powerful things you can do. I'd say that not more than 1% of companies in the world use that. Now, there's a little bitty company called Apple that's pretty good at it. But again, most of us don't want to copy Apple, because who in the heck would want to have $10.7 billion in profit for just 3 months? US dollars. We're not talking rubles here, okay? So one of the other skills that we got to focus on is empowerment. And empowerment means that all of us in this room have to make fast decisions, and it better be in favor of the customer. And that means each of us have to bend the rules and policies and procedures. If you want to move up in your company, if you want to be the cheerleader, if you want to be the one everybody comes to, you got to be able to make empowered decisions. And the customer is always right. Your goal is to have over happy customers. So empowerment is not about breaking the rules, but bending them to keep a customer happy. See, half the money we spend on advertising is wasted. We have no idea which half. Now you got a customer in front of your eyes, or maybe they're on the phone and they got a problem. But because we're Russian, we say, "I'm sorry, sir. We have policies, we have rules, and we have procedures. And by the way, you've just been screwed. I need you to say to the customer, 'Don't worry about it. Oh my God, Mr. Tschohl, I looked at you're one of the best customers we got. Let me take care of you.'" See, you want to do what Commerce Bank and Metro Bank does. They treat everybody the same. Special. That's how you move up. That's how you master these principles. Just imagine what you could do here in Russia with a workforce of empowered employees who did whatever they had to do on the spot to have over happy customers. I don't care what business you're in. Maybe you got a fitness club. What would happen if everybody in your fitness club understood the customer experience? I have a membership at Lifetime Fitness in the United States. Let me tell you, the customer service is so bad, it's frustrating. There's not a single person there that could make an empowered decision in their lifetime. They're very rule-driven. It's incredible. I don't see a lot of empowerment. But let me tell you what, you're never going to be a service leader without empowerment. There are too many weird, unusual things that happen every day. And what you want is your employee to be able to make fast decisions, and it always better be in favor of the customer. We're not talking $1 million loans here. We're talking all sorts of little bitty things that have to happen. So I need you to all stand up a second. I'm going to teach you some English. Everybody, please stand up. Everybody. Everybody. Now, I saw some of you, Brian asked you some questions, and you were kind of silent. I'm counting on enthusiasm and energy from each of you is this. I want you to repeat after me with a lot of enthusiasm. Are you ready? Empowerment. Oh, that's bad. Empowerment. We can do better. Empowerment is having. Oh, we got to have energy. Empowerment is having millions. Oh, come on. We are teaching you English. Let's start again. Empowerment is having millions and millions and millions and millions of over-happy customers. Okay, let's do it one more time with more energy. Empowerment is having millions and millions and millions of over-happy customers. Spasiba. Now you're fluent in English. Now, one of the other secrets of service leaders is they're very careful about who they hire. At Metro Bank, they hire 1% of all the people they interview. We have to be careful that we do not hire employees who hate customers. In many organizations, if the person has a pulse, they're on board. We hire them. And the result is we got a lot of dead people on our payroll. That's bad. So Anthony Thomason, former chairman of Metro Bank, said, we interviewed 9,000 people and we took on only 1%. We interviewed 3,500 people for the first 60 customer-facing roles. Nordstrom's is supposed to be the most incredible retail chain in the United States for customer service. My wife went to the brand new store in the Twin Cities about a week ago. She called me up on the phone. She said, you'll never believe how bad the employees are. They said they must have hired people that were all dead. The dress, the way they wore clothes, the jewelry that they were wearing, the tattoos, it's incredibly bad. She said nobody knew anything about their products. My wife tends to be a little shy. I do most of the talking, it seems, in my family. So I sent an email to Eric Nordstrom's, the co-president of Nordstrom's. I said, both your Mall of America store has no service recovery and no empowerment, and your brand new store in the Twin Cities has really bad customer service. This is a $12 billion company. He called me up a couple days later, 2 hours later. I put him through on the phone with my wife, and she went through it, and he said, we interviewed 500 people, and I suspect they have about 100 employees at Nordstrom's. I'm not sure the number. So that's 1 out of every 5. And they did a bad job, okay? At Metro Bank, they hired 1 out of 1,000. They're hiring 1%. So we got to understand the customer experience. One of the things we got to do is we had to learn how to handle irate customers. I find that a lot of employees just hang up the phone. I'm going to China on November 20 with my wife, and I'm meeting my kids, my whole family there, and I needed a reservation for the visa, so I called up Marriott. Hey, Marriott is usually really, really good. And I said, I gave her the dates, and I said, I want a flight, a reservation starting on November 21 in Shanghai. She had no idea where Shanghai was. And I'm getting a little exasperated, and then I said, well, it's in China. This is Marriott. It's supposed to be a global company. She had no idea where China was. Well, then I started getting a little testy. And I said, I need to speak to a supervisor, somebody that understands where China is. And then you know what she did? I'm sure this would not happen in Russia. She went click. How, I would never know who I was talking to. So what I find is that many employees are not very good at handling difficult situations and irate customers. So first, we got to listen carefully. You got to put yourself in the customer's place. And then you have to ask questions. When you ask questions that address their concerns, you move them out of the emotional state. By the way, are you married? Are you married? You can use this with your wife. You can use this with your wife. You can use these same skills with your wife. You can also use them with your boss. Number 3 up here is we got to suggest alternatives that address their concerns. We got to apologize without blaming, and then we got to solve the problem quickly. But most of us have never been trained, and nor do we ever train our employees on handle irate customers. Government, you know what government does? I'm in Mexico. I've got 6 minutes left. I'm in Mexico City, and there's this gigantic line. I flew down first class. And there's a huge line. I'm at the end of the line, and all the Mexicans go through another line, and there were 8 key socks open out of 36, 2 of them for the non-Mexicans and 6 of them for the Mexicans. As I get closer to the line, I see this guy, and he doesn't speak English. I don't speak Spanish. And I said, muy mal. And I pointed to all the stuff. Well, right before I went to the key sock, he went up to the woman, and I don't know what he said, but it must have been pretty bad. So I went up there with all 3 forms. Remember I talked about Russia, you don't have to fill out a form anymore? In Mexico, you got 3 of them. In Mexico, they can't tell the difference if you're male or female, so you got to put it down on each form. So I went up and she looked at my forms. She said, they're not completed correctly, go to the end of the line. So I said in English, this is really stupid. Well, it turns out that stupid in English is similar to Spanish stupido. Well, that was bad. They put me in a holding area in a little tiny room for an hour. So I was down on my knees begging for mea culpa, asking for forgiveness, and finally they released me. So government, they get even more uptight. So one of the core skills of customer service, we got to teach people how to handle irate customers in difficult situations. And then the last thing I want to talk about is service recovery. No matter how good we are, bad stuff happens. We're going to make mistakes. Our company is going to make mistakes. In America, most people lie. I'm sure that doesn't happen here in Russia. So when you make a mistake, how do I move the customer from hell to heaven in 60 seconds or less? By the way, this book is in your Russian bookstores. I don't know if they're selling our books out there, but I have 4 books. I don't have 65 books like Brian does in Russian. I only got 4 books in Russian. But we got 9 training programs on customer service, and our partners, I believe, are here in the room. So what I want to talk about is service recovery. How do you create an experience that's so incredible when you screw up that the customer falls in love with you, and it all happens in 60 seconds? Would you like to learn how to do that? Okay, first is we got to act quickly. Let's say that you have a reservation tonight for 7 o'clock for 4 people. You get there, and the hostess says, I'm sorry, sir. We're not going to be able to seat you for a while. Just go sit somewhere else, okay? And I'm gonna show you the correct way to do it, and I'm going to show you the incorrect way to do it. And I'm going to use a restaurant just so we can relate to it. So act quickly means all this has to happen in 60 seconds, which means you do not have time to move something up the chain of command. That means each of you have to make a fast decision on the spot, and you better understand the most important thing in the world is to take care of a customer, to keep the customer. And then, secondly, you got to take responsibility. Sir, it's our fault. I guess we overbooked, but it's totally our fault. What most people do is they lie. Oh, it's the kitchen. Man, I tell you what, we got some really bad people in the kitchen today. We got some bad people lie, and they put blame on everybody else. So all you got to do is take responsibility. I apologize, sir. It's obvious. And by the way, it's Mr. Tschohl. Am I correct? Yes, it is. So, Mr. Tschohl, it's obviously our fault. And then third is you got to be empowered. You have to be able to make fast decisions. And fourth, we have to compensate. Mr. Tschohl, I'm not sure how soon we can get you seated, but because of the inconvenience, could I ask you and your party to go into the bar area and have drinks on us until we can get you seated? How do you feel? You're sitting in there having somebody has a beer, somebody has a glass of wine, maybe somebody has a vodka. A lot of vodka in Russia, right? And then somebody else has a Coke. And maybe you each have 2 drinks as you're sitting in there. What are you talking about during that, let's say, 30 minutes as you're waiting to be seated? In fact, as anybody, you're probably, if you're like me, thinking, God, I hope it takes more time, right? Maybe I'll get 3 drinks. But you're talking, man, this is really cool. You're on your cell phone. You're sending messages. You'll never believe. You're onto WhatsApp. You're taking pictures of people. You're sending all these messages out. You know, the average person has 130 friends on Facebook. Now, let me tell you what the real cost is. If each person had 2 drinks, the average cost is maybe only $1 a drink, U.S. Peanuts. I got $8 I just spent. And I got hundreds and hundreds of people that heard about what happened. Now, let's say you got a cheap manager who doesn't understand compensation. And he says, I'm not going to spend that money, versus the guy that does. So I had a chance to work with Stanley Marcus when he was alive. He was the chairman emeritus of Neiman Marcus. And these are the principles I'd like you to incorporate. He said we have to respect our customers. Second, you have to learn to love them. And eventually, you will adore them. I have a newsletter in Russian and English you're free to sign up for. This is the contact information for my licensee here in Russia. I'm counting on each of you to be the Amazon, the Apple, the Metrobank of Russia. I'm counting on each of you to become indispensable. I'm counting on each of you to move up. I'm counting on each of you to become the role models for customer service here in Russia. Спасибо.